Whether it's spending time with your family here, looking for bison, or taking a walk along its scenic shores, everyone loves to visit the Great Salt Lake. Shared nature spaces are important. Would you be sad if the lake shrunk away?
Oh yes, definitely. It's one of my biggest fears.
See? Unfortunately, the lake has been shrinking since 1850, and in recent years, water levels have been declining faster than ever. In fact, scientists warn that the lake will dry up within 5 years due to factors like climate change, excessive agricultural use, and municipal mismanagement of water resources. Hi, I'm Bethany, and today I'm going to take you on a journey to explore why exactly the lake is shrinking and what consequences a dying lake will bring. Ready? Let's jump in. The Great Salt Lake supports 80% of Utah wetlands. Millions of migratory birds, bugs, and flies depend on the lake to stay alive. So how does the shrinking lake cause trouble in the ecosystem? Let's let Museum Exhibit Director Lisa Kruger explain.
This is a microbialite. It's a rock made by living organisms, particularly cyanobacteria. They're at the base of the food chain of the Great Salt Lake, and if they die because they are exposed, the entire food web and the ecosystem in the Great Salt Lake will collapse.
When microbialites are exposed to air for too long or the water becomes too salty, they die. Brine shrimp rely on microbialites to reproduce. Watch how that stick floats. The Great Salt Lake is naturally buoyant, but as salinity levels rise, so too does buoyancy, making it hard for brine shrimp larvae to swim downwards and latch onto the microbialites. Additionally, the high salinity levels in the lake stress the brine shrimp out so much that they alter the timing of the reproductive cycle. Scientists now worry about the population of the shrimp this coming year. Wow, there's a lot of birds out there. You can't see them because they're super far away, but trust me, they're out there. Unfortunately, the birds are starving because less brine shrimp in the water means less food for birds to eat. One bird in particular is in danger, the eared grebe. When they arrive, they molt, meaning they're stuck here for the season. That makes them especially vulnerable to starvation. This ecosystem is being put in jeopardy. And because the Great Salt Lake is a huge stop on the Pacific Flyway, it doesn't just affect Utah water systems. Ecosystems across the Americas feel the tremors. You can already see the effects of the lake on these poor birds. I wish we could give every duck here a proper burial. Unfortunately, that would probably take upwards of 1 million hours. Now I know what you're thinking. I'm not a hippie. Why should I care about a couple dead ducks? Well, I've got news for you, buddy. Ducks aren't the only ones in trouble. People are too. Looks harmless, right? Wrong. When the lake dries up, toxins are blown into the air from the lake bed in the form of dust. This toxic dust has serious side effects. Heavy metals in the air are associated with kidney damage, bone damage, lung cancer risk, asthma, and developmental and neurobehavioral disorders. Poor air quality is also associated with higher suicide rates. Whoa, almost didn't see you there. Too busy looking at this beautiful house. Even though this house is beautiful, its value may be dropping. Arsenic air lowers housing prices. If the air quality index rises by even 0.1, housing prices decreased by nearly 4%. As you can see, the Great Salt Lake affects the housing market. Say goodbye to your precious value house. Air quality affects the tourist industry too. For example, skiing's a total blast, but toxic chemicals from the lake bed include alkaline dust, which settles atop the snow and reduces snowpack. This shortens the ski season and slows winter tourism. Plus, reduced snowpack means reduced runoff, which dries the lake even more. Bummer. Tourism isn't the only industry that's going to take a hit. Mineral extraction jobs from the Great Salt Lake comprise of 42,022 Utah jobs. But when the lake dries up, so do these jobs. Earlier, we talked about how rising salinity levels are killing brine shrimp and affecting the food chain. But what I didn't tell you is that the Great Salt Lake provides 45% of the world's commercial brine shrimp, which support aquaculture. That means the loss of brine shrimp doesn't just affect Utah, it affects the world economy. So if you like seafood, enjoy it while you can.
But what causes the lake to shrink?
I'm glad you asked. Let's find out. Come on. One cause of the shrinking lake is agriculture. Irrigation accounts for 75% of water use in the state of Utah, and 45% of that is used by alfalfa and hay farmers. Hearing those statistics, it's easy to understand why so many blame farmers for the lack of water in the lake. But I want to take a closer look. Let's examine what laws govern water management in the state of Utah to understand why agriculture uses so much water. Boy, that water sure isn't drinkable. And that's exactly what the lawmakers of 1903 thought when they declared the Great Salt Lake not of beneficial use. This is important because if the lake is not considered to be of beneficial use, water rights owners risk losing their water right if they divert their water to the lake because of use it or lose it laws. In 2022, the state government changed this law, declaring the Great Salt Lake to be of beneficial use and allowing water rights holders to divert their water to the Great Salt Lake without penalty. They also implemented some new programs like the water banking program to help the Great Salt Lake. But do these changes really make a difference? I'm about to head to meet Clark Nielsen, a local farmer, to find out. I met with Clark in a local diner, where I asked him about some of the new legislation. Even though Clark was very active in the local farming community, he'd never heard of some of the new landmark bills.
So, these kind of past legislative session, they passed a couple new bills.
I haven't spent much time studying it.
Yeah.
What he had heard of, though, was the water banking idea.
They're starting a water bank. I don't know yet. I don't see yet how I don't see water banks being a big advantage. Then that may be because I don't understand the program yet.
Water banking sounds pretty good, but most farmers don't know how to use it and have no way to find out. That makes the plan about as useful as this trash. After discussing changing laws, Clark filled me in on some of the happenings of the town, including changes to the local water management. To increase water conservation and boost water levels in the Great Salt Lake, state officials planned to change this canal into a pipeline, but local community leaders voted against this proposal. These two examples perfectly illustrate the problems that Clark was talking about. 1. Education. Most farmers don't know about the new changes. 2. Trust in the government. Most farmers don't trust the government to actually put the water back in the lake. And 3. Regulation. Nobody's actually checking on these things. In summary, water laws make it hard for farmers and others to conserve water. That doesn't mean these programs are completely hopeless. With a little education, publicity, and trust in the government, these programs can hopefully become very successful. More helpful bills have come out this past year, including one that creates a Great Salt Lake Commissioner, one that gives more money to the Department of Water Resources, and one that creates an emergency trigger that bans mineral extraction if the lake gets too low. Let's talk about the bills they didn't pass. One bill they didn't pass would have forced golf courses to report how much water they use, but legislators were afraid this would shame them. I personally think they should be embarrassed. Another bill would have prohibited HOA organizations from punishing those who didn't water their lawn. All I can say to that is a big thumbs down. Water overconsumption is common in Utah because water is very cheap. One of the reasons for this is that the true cost of water is hidden within property taxes. This is bad because it leads to overconsumption, because residents don't realize how much water costs and how much they're actually using. It's also bad because those who use a lot of water and those who use a little are both taxed at the same rate, meaning neither have an incentive to limit their consumption. More than personal use, though, is industry, which accounts for 9% of all Utah water use. One big industrial water user is US Magnesium, who hold the water rights to 144,790 acre-feet of the Great Salt Lake. Worryingly, though, they don't seem too concerned with the environment. Despite being a huge company producing all the magnesium for the United States and 14% of the world's supply, US Magnesium employs only one man, Jeff Messenger, to handle all environmental concerns. In an exclusive interview, Messenger revealed that there is a 1980s mentality within US Magnesium in regards to the environment. He also talked about how they denied outside research about their pollution problems. That's obviously not good for the lake. However, Messenger assured me that attitudes were slowly changing and that he has his own plans in the work to minimize US Magnesium's water use. Let's hope these plans come to fruition. The road behind me is completely submerged due to large snowfall this year, which is great for the Salt Lake. It bought us some time, but that doesn't mean we can stop working to raise the lake's water levels because the lake is still shrinking. Just because the lake is shrinking doesn't mean all hope is lost. The lake just needs a helping hand. With new laws, agricultural reform, restructuring of water costs, and a special attention paid to the lake, we can turn this problem around.